all for coming. I appreciate that. So I have some thank yous first to some sponsors. I'll introduce our guests. And we're going to do about 40 minutes or so of some questions from these guys. And then we're going to do 20 minutes for you guys to ask questions for us. Can you guys hear me okay?
No.
We put on the microphones. We got to yell.
No.
We recommend that the background is to your front.
Okay.
There's a whole
Look at all this room right here. There we go. That's what I'm talking about.
Come on up, y'all. I promise you don't pull out the water gun. This is the flashlight. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's no more seats.
So thank you for coming. This is the panel. Graduate from this accelerator, you guys next. That's how we want to be. Probably should go somewhere else. Get all in. We're going to have a good panel tonight. So I want to thank, first of all, WeWork. Let's give them a round of applause. Yeah. SputnikATX for partnering with MassChallenge to put this on. So thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah. I also want to do a shout out to Mark Manning. He's a really cool guy. There's a newsletter. I just think it's awesome. You should sign up for it. Texas Square newsletter. He's great. And last but not least, Waterloo Sparkling Water. It's very refreshing. Okay. And yes. Okay, so I'd like to introduce our guests. So I'm going to go, see, outside in. Here we go. Oksana Alisheva. Close. Alisheva.
Index.
Just want to get that right. Okay. So she's going to bring the perspective of going to another accelerator. And she was once part of the strategic teams at McKinsey and Motorola. She's now the SputnikATX managing partner and CEO. Dr. Oksana used her skills and passions in leadership and education to shift focus to building strategies for positive social change and innovation. Thank you for being here. Yeah. Mokshika Sharma. Say it correctly. So, one of my techniques, I guess, is currently the COO and co-founder of Sigma Lion, a due diligence and deal management platform. She and her co-founder startup journey started with Taste Cookie, a food data startup with an app that acquired 50,000 users, but pulled the plug after a year and a half because of the co-founder's disagreement. She was a CFO of Full Fridge, and after 14 months and 250K revenue, her and her partners had to shut down the company. So she's going to bring the perspective of closing down. Next, we have Claire England. And Claire she's executive director of CTAN, Central Texas Angel Network. And she's going to bring the perspective of investment. And Claire, I can talk for days on you, so I'm going to try to keep it short. Claire brings 20 years of executive and nonprofit leadership to her roles as executive director of Central Texas Angel Network. It's one of the largest, most active angel investing groups in North America, a significant source of early stage capital and entrepreneurs. CTAN is a diverse group of 185 members with 93.4 million invested in 160 plus companies since 2006. That's impressive. Claire is a fellow in class 21 at the Kaufman Fellowship, a prestigious 2-year Silicon Valley-based leadership program for venture capitalists and innovators of all kinds. And Lou Ellman. Lou's going to give the perspective of bootstrapping. So Lou is a bootstrap startup founder, investor, mentor, and sales executive. Lou founded software company Royalty Zone, and I met you right when you started that. It's true. Yeah, right after that. It's cool. Royalty Zone in 2007. Sports entertainment and corporate brands use Royalty Zone to manage and automate trademark licensing. BuildTrack acquired the company in 2016. As a mentor at the Capital Factory, 10 Capital, Skew, and Bootstrap Austin, who loves people, music, food, drink, and good vibes, and his longtime home, Austin, Texas. Thank you. I've got several questions that I added to make it all interesting. So I've got a general question for all of you. Take turns going to go into that. And then I wanted to ask specific questions of each of them if they resonate with their chosen field of expertise. And then I'd like to turn it over to you guys. So the first question, whoever wants to jump in, what advice do you want to give a startup, specifically a startup exiting an accelerator? I can start with you.
Excellent. I always like to talk about my 3-step business plan. First step is get a customer. The second step is make that customer extremely happy. And the third step is repeat. So my focus throughout the journey has always been on revenue and client acquisition and organic growth and getting as many sales dollars in the door as quickly as possible so I can continue the journey.
I would add that a lot of the founders I speak with who graduated accelerators find that there's something in that time in the accelerator that really challenged their business or them as founders. And if you haven't had a chance during the time in that accelerator to resolve that challenge, really focus on that and try to solve that moving forward so that you can get past the roadblocks that you found to experience.
And for us, what's really worked is really strong mentorship. So finding the people, kind of evaluating your team and understanding what the roles in your team are, and finding the people that you potentially help fill those roles and fill the gaps that you might have, because that's going to be your strength moving forward past the acceleration point.
Maybe you want to have the speaker stand up because some of the voices, the voice in the back is hard to hear.
Yeah, project. We'll just,
That's
we'll
very
yell.
softly.
Yeah, so we'll yell.
And for me, do you guys hear me better this way? Well, the number one thing to remember is your journey just starts after the accelerator. And the one thing that good accelerators do, they provide framework and they provide day-to-day additional motivation to keep you focused on whatever is the key objective of your startup. At Sputnik, we are maniacal, and I would underscore maniacal about traction. Like exactly what Lou said, getting a customer, keeping it happy, and keeping that at a 10% recurring growth, because that's what venture capitalists ultimately are looking for. What we've seen sometimes happens is, well, you're off the treadmill, no one is actually badgering you about your tracking metrics, and then focus on seemingly important problems that do not lead to that traction. Maybe that IT problem that you need to fix and something else. Everything is important in the startup, but nothing is as important as your growth that covers multiple sins. And that might be different for your startup. So coming out of the accelerator, I'm guessing that good accelerator will taught you and focus you on what's important for you. Keep that focus, do not steer away. Because your journey just started and when you go like this, that's when the problem finds them.
Okay, fair enough. So I'm going to stick with you, Oksana, and I wanted to ask you a couple questions. I'm going to give you some time to answer. If you have time in, that'd be great. So help startups, we've got plenty of them in the audience right now, understand the current accelerator landscape. You might want to use that either from a global perspective or just Austin. And how do they determine if the accelerator is the right next step?
That's an excellent question, and actually it's a particularly excellent question for Austin, because we are really lucky to have a lot of wonderful accelerators with one mission to advance the startup scene and to make Austin a really phenomenal startup center. Definitely more than Texas. But we're all very, very different. And I think the chemistry of the partners will be different, the scale of the startup will be different. There will be different conditions in which you enter the startup. Some of them will be more competition-based, some of them will be and then you basically have to compete throughout for the check or for the prize. Some others that will be a competition re-entering, but then companies will be vested in accelerating you and graduating. There will be people that will provide a lot of mentorship, but it's, I sometimes call it a la carte. So you have to find that mentor, seek it out, make an appointment. Some other companies will actually prescribe a certain protocol to you. So you really don't know what stage of the, you cannot make a decision. You have to really look at what's out there. Is there a fit mentally? Do people that you see in that accelerator inspire you? Do your life conditions fit what that accelerator requires. For instance, with Sputnik, if you're lucky enough to get in without offer, we will ask you to go to full-time to the startup because there's nothing wrong with being a side hustle in general, but it's not the right fit for us because we want you really to propel you forward. We want the full-time attention. Some accelerators would insist that you're here in Austin for the duration, and some are okay with you visiting on and off. So if your life circumstances support one or the other, that would be a decision factor. Whether you get just mentorship or mentorship and investment, and which one is more important to you at this stage, that is also very important. And do you really need either mentorship or investment, or would you rather focus on your business and you know exactly what to do, then just do that?
I would follow up on that a little bit, and I think it behooves us as entrepreneur community leaders and as startup founders to ask whether it makes sense to be in multiple accelerators. Is that really allowing you to focus on getting the customers and the revenue and your traction? Is it taking away from that, or is it adding to it? I think making the decision to go to an accelerator is a tough one in the first place. Is it the right fit for you, as Sonia outlined? But then beyond that, going to more than one accelerator, have you found the right one in the first place, or do you have to go find a second one or a third one? I would be really careful about that decision because you want to make sure that you're focused on what Luke's talking about.
Ultimately, there are no grades. To build what they're saying, there's no grades. You can completely ace the accelerator program and completely fail the stuff. So we will equip you with tools, we will not do your work. So you have to be your business owners. And so you have to make the decision that is the best one for the business.
I think it also matters a lot like what category of company you are. So potentially it might not work for your type of company to go to an accelerator. So essentially you might be a consumer-facing product, a packaged good that you might need to go to a specific accelerator like SKU, but then you might need to go to a different accelerator depending if you're a fintech company. So you do want to evaluate whether that particular accelerator fits the type of company that you are, and if you will find the mentorship and the people that can help you prop you up in that accelerator as well. So yes, doing that research.
I was going to add that I think this is hard to do. And I'm not saying it's easy. I have an awesome team. They do all the work. I don't do a whole lot. I let them do everything. But I think there's value in coming into an accelerator and saying, what is my objective for the next 12 weeks? Is my objective to get a mentor? Is my objective to get sales? Is my objective to network? And actually hold yourself accountable for that, because I think that's where the old adage, you get what you put into it, what you get out of it. That's where I think the focus helps, where you go, I'm going to skew Sputnik to do X and Y. And I think that helps folks versus I'm in the accelerator, now what do I do? To your point, you can ace the accelerator but fail as a startup. What are your objectives? Next question, this one fascinates me. So I'm all excited. This is for Lou. So define bootstrapping, and how does the startup decide if they should bootstrap or fundraise upon exiting an accelerator?
That's an excellent question. First thing you'll notice is bootstrappers get to our shorts. And the reason why is if you're bootstrapping, there's really no one to impress but yourself. You don't have, and your customers. But you haven't taken any outside funding, you truly are working for yourself. Now, so for me, the definition of bootstrapping is growing your business organically without taking any external funding. That doesn't mean that you don't need money. You still need money to start the business. In my case, I was in a hoarded luxury, and then I had enough money saved up to fund the beginning of it. So in many cases, that was my own angel. But that money that I put in was paid back to me in the second year of operating the business. Because my focus, as I mentioned in my beginning, my focus was on customer acquisition, sales, and getting revenue as quickly as possible. And that's really the key. If you're going to take the bootstrap path, you can't build buildings, you can't sign expensive leases, you can't hire unlimited staff. You have to grow the business along with the revenue. And every time I would close a deal, like, okay, great, now I can hire another developer, I can find a QA person. Disadvantage of bootstrapping, if you need to speed up those efforts, then the only way to do that is by raising external funding. You're in a marketplace or a niche where it's not a race to the finish line, and you can grow your business at your own pace and still be successful, then bootstrapping makes sense.
And just to underscore this, when an entrepreneur who bootstrapped for a year or two comes to us, that gives us, we want to invest in someone who is gritty and committed because it's the longest stretch. Very few people realize that to enter in the startup world, it's generally 5 to 10 year journey. Okay? And what media often highlights is the quick exits, the flips, and that actually is not the truth. And so when we see people who come to us and they look to PowerPoint, well, actually, we could not come to Sputnik, it was just PowerPoint, we wanted to have a product. But I've seen many people in the industry that write a nice PowerPoint and they come and they want to get a 2, 3, 5, I've seen $10 million valuation in PowerPoint. To me as an investor, and that might be my perspective, I don't want to fund that because I do not see the skin in the game. Our cohort with Sputnik, all of them without exception, bootstrapped it for 2 years, quitting good jobs to focus exclusively on that. That to me is commitment. That to me is the belief. That to me is an assurance that people will not walk away easily. They really have a lot of skin in the game.
Yeah, and I should add that in the beginning, it's painful. I had to lower my cost of living significantly. I quit my job to focus on my company, which was hard, but it had to be done. You have to get out of your own way. I think that's one of the first big decisions as an entrepreneur you make is when is the right time to quit your job. And it's a tough decision. But I made a little bit of money playing guitar in this town. There's plenty of opportunities for guitar players. But I lowered, and I had money saved up. So I went a low cost of living for a couple of years. It was probably 3 years in before I was making a comfortable adult wage, and it was still half of what I was making when I was employed in corporate work. But the beautiful thing was at the end of the journey, after 9 years, when I was able to sell the business, I was the 100% owner of the business, and it made up for all those lost years of revenue and then some through the years. It is definitely a commitment.
Nice, you're an overnight success.
Overnight.
So my follow-up question for you is, so I'm sure there's folks out there bootstrapping. Most entrepreneurs are pretty savvy and stretch a dollar. How do you avoid the customer concentration? Right, so you get a customer and you're excited, and to your point, you want to keep them happy, and you kind of focus on that to the detriment of maybe I'm doing too much for them and I'm not getting the next customer.
The wrong customer can kill you. And we had that. In the beginning, you get a bunch of small companies, people that have the vision. It's exciting, and then you get that monster client, and all of a sudden, it's all consuming, and you're spending your whole day, your whole team supporting that monster client. In our case, we had the client for maybe 2 or 3 years, and then they left. And they left because we couldn't give them the support that they needed, and it was starting to affect the way we're supporting all the other customers. So you have to be picky. It's very hard to be picky when you're at the low levels of revenue. So you always want to take every dollar that can come in. But that is a great point. It's a fine line, and I think in hindsight, what I could have done differently to service this client better, I think we should have charged them more. We could have asked for more money. We could have asked for more money for the support. We could have had an open conversation with the CEO of that company saying, you guys are killing me. We're not going to survive this relationship. So in hindsight, I think that I undervalued the relationship in order to get the deal. And then once the deal came in and it was starting to cause problems, I should have flown and met that CEO face to face and had those conversations.
Is there anything other day? All right. This one is for Moshika. These are tough. I know these are tough questions. I know you know what's coming, but they're still tough questions. What are the 2 questions every startup must ask themselves to determine if shutting down is the best next step for the business?
So first of all, just the fact that this question is being asked and that I'm on the panel that talking about closing down is a really awesome thing because this is something that nobody wants to go through. It's one of those moments that come into a startup's life that you're so much in denial until it actually happens, and then you have to make a decision. And in fact, for me, it just so happened that I wasn't even the one making the decision. It was my co-founder who actually had to convince me that, for the main thing about shutting down a company is that you should always be tracking all of your metrics, right? Whether it's how well you're doing with your customers, how well you're doing with your gross profit margin, whether it's how well you're doing with your product market fit. What are those things that you should always be tracking those things, right? So if you're even considering shutting down a company, you should kind of see it miles away because you are already seeing things are like on rocky water, right? So the first thing is there something that's just not fitting for your startup, right? And the second thing is do you have the resources to make that thing fit, right? So do you have the runway in order to make it to it fit? Do you have the mental capacity to withstand, the next few months without maybe you getting paid, without you working through these problems, because it is very stressful, right? And one of the things that happened for us in the first company was our third co-founder, unfortunately, this was just not a life for him. And even though you could see the trend and you could see that, we needed to talk to him a little bit more, he made it to a situation that we were unable to continue with our company. But the second thing was we were so giddy and so happy that we were doing a startup with our friends that we didn't have proper legal documents. And so, these are things that you don't think about when you start a company, but ultimately, when it comes down to it and you have to shut down, it's staring at you in your face. And for our second company, we were trying to raise money through CTAN, and we essentially knew there was a macro factor, which was Amazon was going to buy Whole Foods. And we knew that months in advance, and we didn't address the issue to our investors early on. And unfortunately, that news dropped on us the week that we were supposed to find out whether we would get the money or not. And these are, again, little things that maybe you could have prepped for, maybe you couldn't have prepped for, but ultimately you need to make hard decisions because so sometimes you're just not, the company will just not succeed if you don't make those decisions, right? So the two questions would be, the first is, do you have something that is glaring in your data that this company is just not going to work? And the second is, do you have the resources to fix that issue?
So one thing I want the audience, and I know it's a lot of startups out there, to know, and I want you guys to comment on this, because I know from a different perspective, but all of you are investors. When someone comes to you and says, I had a failed startup, what do you guys actually think? Because I think it's different than what they may actually perceive.
I'm automatically impressed by any CEO who's had a failure in life.
I also love people that go for it. If you go for it, to me, that's a huge checkbox.
So the perspective of the entrepreneur, we actually finally ended up raising money earlier this year, and it was without even a product. So, investors.
And many of the same investors they met through CTAN. Because they were so impressed by the team and how you guys handled the shutdown. There are ways to handle the shutdown that are good. There are ways that are not so good. And to their credit, they handled it in the most graceful way I've seen entrepreneurs handle the shutdown. Speaks well to you guys.
Completely agree with this. As a society, we glamorize the startup path, and actually it's not glamorous, and failures are happening. And the statistics, if you look at this, 9% startups that will fail. So if you fail, then you learn, you're much better prepared for the next step. And the fact that I'm so impressed with Chica for actually sitting here and talking about what probably was the toughest days of your life with a smile and grace. And yes, I don't know what your business is, but that kind of attitude is an impressive sign of perseverance and integrity that we want to support.
And actually, before I started my business as an employee, I was involved in the Epic shutdown, in the .com era. This company had raised $27 million and shut down 18 months later. And they returned some money to investors. But I learned more about business from my time at that company than any of the other jobs where we were selling something out there. So it's a real eye-opener.
I just encourage folks that from one perspective is when you have that story, what you just said, that having the ability to share how much you learned, the integrity to say, hey, it didn't work, but here's how I grew from it, and here's how I'm going to apply that to be successful in the next venture, I think carries a lot more weight than people realize. So I've met folks that have failed when they feel like they failed, and I'm with you. I kind of like folks that go for it, that say, I'm just going to go there. And maybe they don't have it all figured out, maybe they don't have the perfect product market fit, but they go for it. That tells me something about that individual that I want to know more. And it's actually a chance for you to show, hey, I'm ready for the next step because you know what? On this rung of the ladder, I learned it. I'm ready.
Something that's interesting, we do a deep dive study of our metrics at CTN, and one of our metrics that's pretty glaring is that experienced CEOs outperform first-time CEOs and return better. They tend to have higher valuations. That's just a really clear metric for us. It's not keeping our members from investing in first-time CEOs. They still do that constantly. It's not a problem. But what's interesting about that data point is that includes both successful and failed companies as CEO. It doesn't matter whether your experience was a success or a failure. Once you've had that experience, it makes you a stronger person.
I actually had an investor tell us that he likes if a company has the CEO has failed at least twice before he invests. You know, that might be a.
You're like,
It is-
I'm an overachiever.
Yeah. Got it. Yeah, so I think it's really interesting, you know, that perspective of investors do like that you have kind of these war rooms, you know, and that they're fine. Okay, maybe you might be.
So next question is for Claire. Again, this is an easy one. So what does the investment landscape in Texas look like for early stage startups? And if the startup decides to raise money, how do they find the best investment partners, underlying partners?
So I know probably a lot of founders will disagree with me on this, but the early stage landscape for investing in Texas is strong. Comparatively, the growth stage Series B is not strong. That's where it really gets tough to reach. There's a lot of competition for those early stage funds, but we do have a really active angel network here in Austin. We have a similarly active angel network in Houston. We've got a dozen angel networks around the state that are active. And that's not even talking about all the individual angels out there who are investing on their own outside. Accelerators, I just think that the early stage capital in our state is relatively strong when it comes to seed. Once you get looking for VC money and Series B in particular, it gets really tough. And David Altunian, who's a professor at St. Edward's University, has done a study on this and he's proven it out in research. So that information.
So my 2 cents on that is, and I've said this a lot, I still believe the best companies in Texas, if they get funded. My argument for us as a community is I don't think we fund them fast enough. So when I look at bringing the world here to innovate, I think we have outstanding VCs. I think we have outstanding entrepreneurs. I think our universities are excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
I married a Longhorn, so I get to do that. I think we have, corporations are involved. I think the media is great. We have great accelerators. But when I see talented entrepreneurs spend 1.5 years to 2 years to get funded, what I push back is sometimes those people know right away whether they're going to fund you. So my kind of call is let's get better and faster at that. You know if you're going to fund someone, right? Now there's due diligence. I think that's healthy, but it shouldn't be a marathon to fund the right kind of companies. And that's where I think the coasts do a little bit better job than we do. And I know we can do better because we're Texas. But I think that we can do it better and we can do it faster, and that's some of that efficiency. Did you guys have any other comments on the investment landscape that you guys have seen or experienced?
As one of the advantages I had as a bootstrapper, every time I came to a fork in my road and I thought, should I go raise money or not? I thought about how long and how much of my time it's going to take to go hit the road and raise funds. I decided to just keep the path forward.
Well, and my advice to most founders is if you're able to go this route and bootstrap and own 100% of your company, by all means do it. Why would you go seek outside funds? You don't have to. Now, if you are in a space, we mentioned this is a space where you didn't have to have the money to scale faster than competitors. If you're in a space where you need that money, you're going to have that fuel. If you're a pharma play, for instance, you have to have millions and millions of dollars over the lifetime of the company. Then, of course, you're going to have to go out and raise money. What I am challenged with consistently in this space is, sure, it takes a long time to raise money, but I think there's also an onus on the entrepreneur to come to the process educated about fundraising. And a lot of entrepreneurs come to this process without having spent time exploring deal terms or what due diligence might look like. What's a due diligence checklist? It's on our website. You can see it right up front. You can see term sheets online. You can read venture deals by Brad Feld and Jason Nicholson. You can educate yourself and be in a much better position of power to negotiate on behalf of your startup when you're going through that process. Sometimes founders slow down the process. Now, most of the time, it's a joint effort to slow down the process, but founders can slow down that process by either not being educated on it, or what I see more often is not being responsive. If you're not responsive to the investors and you don't provide materials that are asked for fast enough, that's going to slow down the process too. If you're able to find a lead investor and then come to someone like CTAN or any other micro VC or family office, then you've got a leg up and you can say, look, someone's already put $300K in my startup, I'm seeking $1 million, let's talk. And that can help as well. Just getting some momentum in that fundraising process will help scale it.
So I had a couple questions. It's a treat to have all you guys smarter than me on panels, so that's fun. So I'm curious, what advice do you give startups who generally when we surveyed them and said, what do you want to learn at the 6 What do you want to get out of it? What are some of your objectives? Number one was, hey, we want to get funding. Number two is how to do sales and how to do things from scratch. Number three was, I want to know how to pitch effectively. And then it usually kind of trailed off. A lot of things were more specific, like how do I build an effective team? How do I manage things across diverse geographic area? What advice do you give startups who are exiting a startup or exiting an accelerator to say, hey, if you're going to come to an investor, whether it's a VC or an angel, here's what you need to expect. Here's what you need to do. And the reason I'm going to preface this a little bit, I try to tell a lot of folks when they talk to startups, you're trying to reduce risk. If you can reduce risk, that helps the investor go, okay. Well, what advice would you give to the folks in some startups in the audience?
So I gave you a to-do list.
Yeah, perfect.
That's one. But two is, how many investors have you spoken with who, in the conversation, you're not seeking money. You're just asking their advice on, are you ready to go out to raise money? Do you think I'm ready to come to see them? Do you think I'm ready to seek VC money, go out for an A round? What, if you don't think I'm ready, what do you think I need to have in place to achieve that? What traction do you want to see? There are some investors in the room. They be at mentor hours, at our mentor hours and other mentor hours around town. And these are the questions that astute entrepreneurs ask them. When should I raise? When should I come to you seeking funds?
Yeah, and to add on to that, the office hours that CTAN offers as well as Capital Factory offers, they are some of the best free resources you are ever going to get. Ever since we essentially started startups, we've been to almost every single CTAN office hours. I think they kind of got sick of our faces, but we essentially would come at the beginning. It was just like every time we had 10 questions, and you get a chance literally for an hour and a half to sit with so many investors. You were never going to get that chance anywhere else, right? So the first is, we come with these 10 questions and we would ask them and essentially hone in our pitch with these investors because we would try to learn, okay, this is what they want to know. This is what they're confused about. This is what, and it's these quick 10-minute sessions with these investors, and you can always do a follow-up with them, with coffee, but those 10 minutes are so valuable if you use it correctly.
Oh, and I want to add that by saying that you should go out and get this opinion from a lot of different investors, that doesn't mean they know what's right for your company. That's your market research on whether investors are interested in your company, right? So you do market research on your customers. What kind of market research you do with investors? That's my point there. So I think that Chica and other entrepreneurs who go take advantage of those resources are being really smart about doing that. And it's not just office hours. There's so many online resources out there that you can review to get ahead of 10 other entrepreneurs you're competing against.
And I think when we do that, because all of us in town, we offer a lot of free resources that are there just because we want to compete with the ecosystem. And when entrepreneurs come, we get to see the entrepreneur, we connect the name with the face, how well you prepared, how respectful you are, how all of these factors from domain expertise to the grit and politeness and general human things, all of those things matter, and then you know that person. And when that person writes to you, you're much more likely to respond to offer them something because you know who the name with the face. Don't forget about your humanity and don't be afraid to ask for help. But also be conscious because I could give you on the one end of the spectrum, I've seen entrepreneurs that are so terrified or even slightly inconveniencing me in a setting that is meant for them to ask the questions that they just tremble, and obviously that's not the entrepreneur you would ever want to fund. On the other end of the spectrum, I've had a founder that did not get funded because they did not know where to stop harassing me. I was unfortunate to give them my cell phone, and over the course of 4 hours, I received 7 messages and 8 voicemails of why I'm not returning his call. Needless to say, that person also did not get a check. And so you have to apply the general human skills to the investors, and also you will see what is a fit. Because the one thing that I want to underscore, it is easier to divorce your spouse than divorce your investor. It is insanely difficult once you have an investor, that investor goes you through the exit. And so you need to make sure that that's the right person, that's the right partner, that they will not hurt you, that they will help you advance your agenda. And not any check is worth your while at any cost. Like for instance, if an angel comes in, and the very common mistake we see a lot is people not really manning the anti-dilution clauses. Okay? And at a certain stage, it's fine as an investor. I, of course, would want that. But if I'm an investor that asks for that, I also need to be very well aware that the rate of received investors will not put a dime, because why would I take someone else's life? And that actually could kill the company and that investment. So you have to be savvy.
And back to Mike's original question around investors as partners, you touched on something I speak with entrepreneurs about a lot. Bringing on investors is getting married to investors. You're looking at a 7 to 10 year relationship on average, right? That's the average time to exit. So, and absolutely, it is probably more challenging to divorce that investor than it is your spouse. So make sure that that person is someone you actually want to be in business with for the next 7 to 10 years. You're interviewing them. They're not just interviewing you. They're not just evaluating you, doing the due diligence on you and your company. You should be evaluating them and making sure that they're someone you want to be in partnership with for the next 7 to 10 years. Yeah, absolutely.
So what I want to do now, if you guys are agreeable, is I want to take the next 20 minutes or so to turn it over to you guys. So if you have questions, this is an excellent chance to ask a very knowledgeable panel about areas, whether it's accelerator or what's next or what to do. But I'm glad you're here, and I think if you guys have some questions, we'll take those now. If not, I'll just call them.
So,
Yes.
let me add a comment following what something Claire did. So I'm an investor, because you know me. I'm also something that you said. When you're meeting an investor, we're looking for a long-term relationship, right? So don't come to me on the first date, first meeting, and start asking me, here's what I want to do, and will you invest in me? And as soon as I say, I got to learn some more about you, click off, because you want to get those dollars right away because you're really worried about it. This is a relationship that we want to develop with you as an investor. I use the Italian word consigliere, somebody who can be of advice and of help to you over the long term. But before we get there, we've got to meet and talk for 2 or 3 months generally, because we can't meet every day, and you're going to be answering questions that I've got for you or meeting other people. So we've got to build a relationship before I'm going to write that check. And once I write that check, I want that relationship, and I hope you do, to continue. And so don't come to the first office hours that you've got expecting that I'm going to whip out my $25,000, $50,000, $100,000 checkbook and write you a check out of space and be disappointed that you haven't got it.
Well, and I think this actually, George, goes back to Mike's point about we're taking too long to fund companies. Yeah, it can take 2 or 3 months, if not longer, to get to that first check. And what I sometimes see companies do is focus just on one VC firm, one angel network, one set of investors. And when you get to know 3 months later, then you start all over. Fundraising should all be happening in tandem. Ideally, you're talking to a ton of different investors at the same time. Yes, it's going to take 110% of your time, and gosh, you hopefully aren't a solo founder, because you really need a co-founder running the business while you're out fundraising. But yeah, that can help a lot in reducing that time to funding and completing your round if you're talking to everyone at the same time rather than one after the other.
You want to start those talks a lot earlier, so like right now, start talking to people, because you do want to, this is a concept that you might have heard a few times, but you do want to make that story, right? You want to say, okay, I was here, and this is where you saw me last time, but this is where I am right now.
Here's what I said I would achieve,
And
and here's what I've done to achieve.
Exactly. And so you want, and even if they've you can just ask them and say, hey, are you okay with me updating you, every few months? And so even if they haven't invested in you, you can just update them and with little things, and they may not reply to you, because we've had people that just don't even reply to us, people still keep up with us, and they'll be like, oh yeah, you guys just did X, Y, and Z, and just because we did update them and they did read it, they just didn't respond. Right? So you want to start building relationships pretty early on.
Any other questions? Yes.
So our company, we're not Austin based, and I know I'm not the only of the companies that are here. I am Texas based. I'm a lot closer to California than I am to the rest of Texas. So,
There are rumors of a group trying to start in El Paso.
right, well, and sort of the investor community, they're small, and that they're a little scared to invest. But it makes sense for us to be in El Paso. How and when do you decide to move to where there are more investors, there are more resources, there are more of all of these sorts of things?
And do you have to?
And do I have to?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure there's a checklist, and surely it's something more than just a big firm.
Has anyone had to move their startup for that reason? What do you think?
We moved here from Seattle.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Let's see how.
Well, from a small town, Gulfport town. 10,000 people, average age of 57. It's more deer than people.
So from our perspective, CTN used to, and I'll just speak from the CTN perspective momentarily, but CTN used to only fund companies, or the members used to only fund companies that were Texas-based operations or headquarters. And after I did the first organizational member survey in 2015, I realized the members don't care as much about geography. Yes, they want to support entrepreneurs in their own backyard, but they just want to see the best companies. So we opened it to nationwide in 2016. Your taxes base, that's still relevant. And we've ended up funding companies that come out of accelerators, Techstars Austin, that move back to California or wherever they hail. And they're still part of our portfolio and we support them in follow-up rounds. So I
just do the
think it's
homework.
possible.
Do
Yeah,
the homework, come out and meet.
you're
take
just
a
gonna have more
self-exploration.
travel time if you decide to stay there. Yeah.
And it's possible, most people here are now geographically constrained. Sputnik is geographically constrained, but our focus is Texas. The one thing that we would ask people to us is we would ask that you relocate to the duration of the accelerated visas because we just cannot absorb what we're trying to teach you. By traveling, but we're not asking you to be there full time. So as an example, on our program, we had one company that liked what we had to offer moved here from San Diego, Los Angeles area, but we also had one company that commuted from Dallas. So the passes a bit further away, so that's trivia, like longer commute.
I love El Paso.
Me too,
I'm just
it's a lot cheaper to live there than it is to live here. It's a
I
lot cheaper to run a business there.
We did our tour of Texas, I spent some time in El Paso, and I was pleasantly surprised. A lot going on. Any other questions?
Yeah, Mike.
Yes, sir.
So my question is kind of based on traction. All of you guys mentioned traction. I guess like an analogy is like we're all digging to China, right? We're digging the soil of China. And at one point, like when you start, you're digging with your hands. And like you find out the soil's soft, this is a good place to dig, things are going well. But like if I go to the store and buy a shovel, I'm gonna get a lot faster, you know, so there's a point where it's like, for us specifically, our problem is technology because neither one of us are technology. So our tech is like our hands and knees, you know. And so we're kind of at a place where we're trying to decide, like, do we need to go buy a shovel, which is almost like going to get fundraising. Like we're taking a lot of our time and energy to improve a tool that is going to help us dig this hole to China, or just keep digging and don't look back, and then we can't, you know. Is that just figure it out?
I'll let Lou answer this for the most part, but my only challenge there is I don't know, you can probably find them, but I don't know very many angel investors who will fund before MVP, before you have the platform built. So that's a tough one. You might have to do the bootstrap on that. And if you can get a customer to help build it.
It's even better. For me, like you said, traction is hard to define. I think the first goal when you start any business is, can I feed myself and my family and my employees? That's goal number one. Anything above that is great. Maybe you need more employees, maybe you need more shovels, maybe you need more tools to grow. But if you can feed yourself comfortably and your family and your employees, then you've got a successful business. And then you can make decisions about how to grow it.
Right.
And to add to that, consider technical co-founder. Because what you do have is you have equity. And it's not easy. It requires a lot of digging and interviewing and dating. But I think technical co-founder will help a lot. Because from the perspective of investor, here's how we look at this. When we give you funding, you either spend it on marketing and acquiring new customers, or you spend it paying outrageous fees to technology consultants. And when you graduate, if you were to do the latter, we do not know yet whether the product is well enough. And the people who will come and try to evaluate after us, they may not see that there is traction.
Right.
And they will not hear that you were not technical. We'll go learn, we had one awesome startup that came, they had a phenomenal idea. Technical guys in the oil field went and learned how to do it. Not that difficult.
And the other thing is you should, if you can do an analysis of yourself, it's like, okay, how much efficiency will it actually provide? Like, what's the cost benefit essentially?
Right.
And like, does it even make sense to be focused on that, and or to be actually need a technical founder that can help us push through the next one? So doing an internal audit basically would be really useful.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, so the quick question that I have is, what is your definition of MVP?
He asked, what is the definition of MVP?
You get 5 different answers from 5 different people. And it's really hard, especially when you're trying to build something out. You build it out in phases.
Welcome to
It's
my
different,
world.
it's different for every circumstance.
Yeah. So,
And
I mean,
MVP is
the path of
the
business
the most important part of that is
yeah.
because it's whatever your customer will give you money to use.
Yeah.
You can have lots of sales calls, and you can you can start trying to sell way before you have a product. But you're not going to get a check until you deliver a product. So really, it's up to your customer to tell you, decide what is the minimum thing that you can deliver to them that they're going to pay you for. In my case, it took us 18 months to get a product that someone would give us money to use. I started trying to sell it day one, right? It took 18 months to build enough features, enough functionality that someone said, okay, I can actually use this to do the thing you say it's going to do. And then from there, we've been building for 10 more years on top of that.
Well, and you're getting so many different opinions, probably because you're asking a great variety of people. If you ask our members, you're going to get 185 opinions on one individual, depending on your business. But to Lou's point, the most important person to ask is the potential customer.
And then they will use their wallet. So as an investor, if someone pays for your product, you have to
That's your beta customer.
Can I follow with what Lou was saying about the important piece that caught my ear was from day 1 to 18 months, you're still trying to sell before that product's there.
Right.
Can you like elaborate a little bit how that went? And
I went to a trade show with a PowerPoint presentation, which was a mock-up of the product, like 2 years before my product was even available for use. And I used it for market research purposes. I used it to convince myself to start the business. But the conversations that I have a entertaining and sad story where I was having a call with a very large company in my space, and this was while we were building early on. And he asked me how we handle minimum guarantees. And I said, what's a minimum guarantee? And he said, and I used this, and I was not young at the time. He said, son, if you don't know what a minimum guarantee is, you got to go back to the workshop. And that was hugely valuable for me, even though it was embarrassing. After that call, I'm like, he's right, I got to learn more. I was building this thing on a very small set of requirements. I needed to learn more about the industry. I subscribed to this legal thing, and I downloaded 100 licensing agreements, which is what my software managed. And I read 100 agreements, and I made a spreadsheet, and 80% of what were in all those agreements is what we ended up building for our MVP. So you just learn, the more sales conversations you have with real potential customers, you really learn what they need to use and what they want the product to be. And that's what you should be building. In hindsight, I would have built the entire thing based on the customer's needs, which it ended up becoming over time. But I wouldn't have even started with my own concept. I would have just had these sales calls, asked those questions, what do you need? Tell me more about the features, give me examples of the reports you want, and built the first version of that based around that. So I always encourage people to have sales conversations as early as possible. You don't have to even tell them that the product's not ready. You can just say, hey, I've got a new company, we do X, Y, and Z. I'd love to talk to you about it. And the more you can learn from real customers, the better off you're going to be. And the more mistakes you're going to learn.
And what's interesting about that is at what stage, if Lou had sought funding, at what stages he might have had conversations with investors. If you've had a conversation with investors at 12 months before it was really ready, versus 18 months once you had the customer on, which is 24 months or 3 years, that's a completely different conversation. And you've got revenue, you don't even have beta customers anymore. You're beyond MVP. And you're bringing a level of traction to the table that makes you really attractive to investors. So you're improving your bargaining chip, if you will.
We're doing something similar as well. Our first company, we essentially had a back end. We had a computer and we had a back end, and it was a conference for packaged goods companies. And so there were people from Hershey's there, from Campbell's there, and we were talking to them. We had 3 posters that this is what the data will look like, and this is, we actually said this is the data that we can grab from our platform right now, and we would show them like a demo, and just that they were already impressed, right? Because it was already more than what they had at the moment. So I think it is very useful to go to conferences, even if you just have like a bare bones, not pretty, like, skinned up version of it, to get your customers to like talk to them and say, this is what we'll have, what more would you want, right? Because then they can help you build it from that point on, right? They can help you say, this is what we would be looking or this is when you would be able to pay for it. You know, this is when we would want to pay for it, right? So you start building it around their use cases rather than what you think that they might want.
I think we'll take one more question. We're going to wrap it up. Is there another question out there? I'm going to have to call on somebody. Oh, there you go. John.
So, Claire, you talked a little bit about, one of the things that happens is sometimes entrepreneurs do different things than investors, right? There's just a whole lot to kind of work through, or this could be concrete, and look at that. What are some of the other things that you or startups or community, we work with a lot, is how do we make this community more effective with these conversations, go faster, go better, startups waste less of their time, you waste less of your time. What can we do to get better?
Help founders understand fundraising, deal terms. Mochika has mentioned a number of deal terms tonight, and if you don't know what an anti-dilution clause is, you need to, well, you're not fundraising, so you're also an investor, so you do know, so whatever. But seriously, the number of founders who come through a fundraising process, especially first-time founders who have never fundraised before and don't know the terms, is I feel, because I'm entrepreneurial minded and I love entrepreneurship, I feel so bad for those founders because they need to educate themselves before they ever start that fundraising process. If you don't understand all of those terms and we're not speaking the same language between founders and entrepreneurs, then you're doing yourself a bigger disservice than you are the investor and your company. So I think that's really the biggest key. But also, do you know how to pitch to investors? So one of the challenges that I sometimes see is entrepreneurs don't always remember the audience when they're pitching to investors. So you should be selling your business, your exit opportunity, your how you're going to make money, not your product. So I see so many founders come in and want to demo the product and speak to investors like they're the customers. They're not. It's a completely different audience. So your pitch to a customer is a totally different deck from your pitch to an investor.
Yeah, I'll second that as someone who's been mentoring now with SKU and Capital Factory and meeting with a lot of early stage.
Soon MassChallenge.
I think some founders have a hard time getting away from the technology that they're working on and not focusing on what I think are the three biggest things, which are the problem you're trying to solve, the business model, and the revenue. Those are the things that an investor wants to hear. So if you could focus your conversation on that.
To back up what Claire's saying, as an entrepreneur, and I came from the technology space, I was a software engineer before an entrepreneur, and it is one of the hardest things that you're going to do is learning about fundraising because, as the gentleman said, the language sometimes is all over the place. You don't quite understand what this person might need, and which is when it is very helpful to have a great offer, because you can actually go back to them and ask them, and even if it takes some time to understand fully what the terms are, it's so useful because we've had times when, for example, we've been offered warrants and we had no idea what a warrant was, or what is a warrant that you'll have 100,000. So essentially, like, what are those little terms that you may not have thought about, you may not have read about, and it is hard. It is extremely hard because of that factor itself. At the same time, the more you talk about it, and the more things you read, the more you will learn, and the more you can get a grasp of what people are actually saying.
So my wish for our community is that founders would be as passionate about understanding fundraising and deal terms as they are about growing their business and what their business is about. Because when you're out there seeking investment, you're giving away, you're selling some of your company to those investors. Some percentage of your ownership is going to them. And you want to know warrants, you want to know anti-dilution clauses, you want to know whether equity or convertible note is better for you. You want to know why Boston investors generally aren't going to want to invest in a safe note, unlike the West Coast. There's so many different pieces to it.
Yeah, because you'll start learning the little nuances of what you're saying, the different personalities of different founders as well. Oh, sorry.
I just want to make a comment on that, because I've mentored a lot of companies that are startups that are looking to how do I make my first sale to somebody when I've never sold a product before or when I pitch. When you're going for investors, the key thing to really look at, that's when you really have to look at your team. Because if you're going to go pitch investors, just like looking for a job as a full-time job, really looking for investors as a full-time job. And if you don't have a good, strong team to be able to take the slack of what it is that you would typically be doing, then you're going to fail. Because you're always going to be having to go back and it's not going to work. So when you want to go look for money, that's the real tipping point of asking yourself, do I have the team that I need in order to succeed?
I want to follow up. I feel like I'm preaching a little bit on founders needing to learn terms. And I want to say that the other side of that coin is I believe that it is incumbent upon angel investors and VCs to be as supportive to entrepreneurs as possible. One of the reasons why George and so many of our members are at mentor hours at CTN and Capital Factory. It's something that I feel really passionate about. It's one of the reasons why I ask potential angel investor members, the very first question I ask them is, why do they want to be an angel investor? Why do they want to be a part of an angel group? I want to know their motivation behind wanting to work with entrepreneurs. So just know that I'm working on that side of it too.
So I'm going to leave you with some closing thoughts before we wrap this up. And one thing that I want us to remember, it's when you go through this process, you do an accelerator, you go, what's next, where are you going? I want us all to embrace that it's not about you or me, it's about us. And as cheesy and corny as that sounds, the reality is we have an advantage from the coast. We actually are collaborative, and we're not crazy. Now, I say that in a good way, but I'm saying it in that I believe Austin and Texas as a whole has the right ingredients to be the best innovation ecosystem in the world. And I know we have the best entrepreneurs, but it's incumbent on all of us to do our part. And I ask corporations, I say, look, if you want to work with MassChallenge, that's awesome. But if we're not a fit for you, I want you to be involved. And just like you said, I think everybody has to do their part. I think VCs and angels have to do their part as well. Just like the founders do, just like accelerators do, because it's not just what we're creating today. What we're creating is something that our children are going to enjoy. And that's why we have to do it. So I want to thank all of you for coming. I want to thank WeWork for hosting us. And I want to thank everyone for that. So thank you.